would you tell me? Will you love me?
Yes.
Believe it or not, when Vertigo hit theaters in 1958, it was met with mixed reviews. But today, it's regarded as one of the best and most influential films ever made. Why is that? Well, Vertigo was released during a strange time in Hollywood. The classical Hollywood period, an era of beloved studio classics and conventional styling, was on its way out. Filmmaking was transitioning into a new era, which we now refer to as American New Wave. American New Wave began to take shape in the 1960s. To put it simply, these films were more artsy and stylish. This is when filmmakers began to realize that they could tell stories with cinematic techniques rather than dialogue. They realized that rather than ending a film in a classical fashion, you could do it like this. Basically, this is when people decided that the director reigned supreme, not the giant studios. Vertigo was released right in the middle of this drastic transformation, a time where its artfulness and elements of pure cinema were probably not fully appreciated by viewers accustomed to classical films. However, nowadays, people do appreciate Vertigo for its level of craft, especially today's finest filmmakers.
And then watching Vertigo again, and watching all those things again, and looking for clues, and kind of filling up on stuff that was in this venue, you know.
And I actually think Vertigo is much better because it was Kim Novak, because she brought an accessibility and a warmth and a sort of tragic air.
Therefore, it's a picture, I think, that of Hitchcock's that is one of his greatest, if not his best, because you can keep watching it and watching it. It's always new.
Plenty of films have paid tribute to Vertigo, everything from James Bond to Pixar. But what is it about Vertigo that so heavily affected today's best filmmakers? Why is this film so inspirational? Well, stylistically, Vertigo is rather stunning. It makes brilliant use of color, composition, and camera movement. Speaking of camera movement, the film pioneered the dolly zoom, which is now widely known as the Vertigo effect. Countless filmmakers have since employed this technique, and you can bet that Vertigo was used as a point of reference for all of them. On a much more subtle level, Hitchcock basically used his camera in a fetishistic manner. The camera was used to satisfy the main character, and perhaps the director himself, something that we see commonly today, but hadn't really been done in the late 50s.
If you think that you can hide what your interests are, what your prurient interests are, what your noble interests are, what your fascinations are, if you think you can hide that in your work as a film director, you're nuts, you know? And I think that he was one of the first guys who said, I'm gonna go with it. I gotta be me.
This relates back to the idea of American New Wave cinema putting the director in full control. Hitchcock was slowly pioneering the idea of auteurism and was exhibiting not only full control of his films, but also the idea of translating his own feelings through cinema, using the camera to write. What's most fascinating about Vertigo's influence is that most filmmakers seem to be rather indifferent on the film's actual plot.
I don't take any of the story seriously. I mean, as a realistic story. So the plot is just a line that you can hang things on. And the things that he hangs on, they're all aspects of, you know, cinema poetry.
Vertigo was a major achievement for the artful cinema that we love today. It was one of the first films to rely on filmmaking and emotion rather than story and actually pull it off. Like Scorsese said, cinema poetry. While films like these may not be directly influenced by Vertigo as a film, they are surely inspired by what Vertigo did for cinema, proving that film is art. Vertigo is a great film, but the actual filmmaking is astonishing and paved the way for filmmakers who want to express themselves through their work. Vertigo is so inspirational because it showed us everything that a film could and should be.